Once upon a time, they were two big kingdoms that were neighbors. They were always trying to be better than each other and have more riches and power. One day, word spread about a magical pot that could make whoever owned it very wealthy beyond their dreams. They called it the Mistorius Pot. Both kingdoms got very excited when they heard the stories and decided they had to find this pot no matter what. The kings called their bravest knights and best trackers. They went looking high and low, deep into the darkest forests where no one dared go, over mountains that seemed too tall to climb, and across raging rivers that wanted to sweep them away. But after searching everywhere they could, the Mistorius Pot was nowhere to be found. It was almost like it didn't really exist at all. Now there was an old, hungry, mad woman who lived alone in a hidden part of the deep forest. She looked like a mess, with torn clothes and wild, tangled hair. Each day she would go out begging for scraps of food, but most people were too disgusted by her strange ways and ugly appearance to give her anything. They shooed her away without a second thought. However, there was one kind young girl who always helped the old woman when she could. Her name was Lily, and though she was just a poor orphan with almost nothing of her own, she never missed a chance to share whatever meager food she could find. Lily had a caring heart and felt sorry for the seemingly crazy old beggar woman. You see, Lily herself had a very sad life story. Her mother was a widow who got pregnant by her own brother-in-law. This was considered so shameful that Lily's mother was kicked out of the village while expecting the baby. The poor woman ended up giving birth to Lily all alone in the forest. And she died not long after from sickness and exhaustion. It was a group of hunters trekking through the woods who came across the orphaned newborn baby girl. They felt sorry for her and decided to take Lily home to be raised by the huntsman's wife, despite her objections. You might think Lily was lucky, but the huntsman's wife was a cruel, spiteful woman who resented having to care for the unwanted orphan. She treated Lily terribly, forcing her to cook and clean all day like a servant, while enduring harsh scoldings or beatings for even the smallest mistakes. Still, no matter how meanly she was treated, brave Lily never let it make her become a bitter or hateful person herself. She stayed gentle, caring and kind through it all, keeping her beautiful spirit intact. And this is what captured the attention of the old, mad woman who wandered the forest. For she was not as crazy or destitute as she outwardly appeared. No matter how mean people were to the old beggar woman in the forest, she kept on walking around every day all the same, even when kids threw rocks at her and laughed at how crazy and messy she looked. The old woman never got angry or yelled back. Deep down inside, she had a kind, gentle heart, just like the sweet little girl named Lily. You see, people thought the old beggar woman was just a homeless, insane person wandering around. But they were wrong. She was actually a super powerful magic witch in disguise. She made herself look poor and unstable on purpose so that nobody would know her true magical identity as she traveled. The old witch lady had decided a very long time ago that she would only share her greatest magical powers and treasures with someone who was truly good and caring, deep down in their heart. Too many greedy, selfish people had misused her magical gifts in the past for bad purposes. This time, she needed to find the most generous, compassionate person alive. That's why, over the years, she closely watched how everybody treated her when she pretended to be a poor, dirty beggar woman. She would moan and beg pitifully for little scraps of food, just to see who would feel sorry enough to share their food and who would cruelly turn away. Only someone with a really pure golden heart would freely give what little food they had to a smelly, unstable stranger on the street. For such a long time, the witch saw firsthand just how mean and uncaring most people could be. They ignored her sad cries for help and pushed her out of the way as they rushed by without a second glance. Some even threw trash and yelled nasty insults at the crazy old woman. But the wise old witch didn't mind. She could wait patiently for as long as it took to find that one truly special person. Then one day, a tiny young girl wearing a raggedy old dress and no shoes on her bare feet approached the beggar woman bravely. It was Lily, clutching a little bundle of food scraps she had found in the forest and fields. Despite probably being very hungry herself, the orphan girl gave a warm smile and freely offered all her meager findings to the beggar woman without hesitation. From that day on, the kind-hearted Lily always remembered to save a portion of whatever little food she could gather to share with the old beggar woman, no matter how small the amount. Even on blazing hot summer days, or when icicles hung from the trees in winter, Lily sought out her new friend just to make sure she didn't go hungry. The old witch woman was so touched by Lily's giving spirit and beautiful heart of pure gold. After centuries of patiently waiting and watching people's true natures, she had finally found that one perfect person to pass all her greatest magical treasures and powers down to before she died. Even though Lily was just a young orphan girl, she had the most virtuous, caring soul the witch had ever encountered in her very long life. So one night after Lily snuck out from the cruel huntsman's house to bring her daily portion of foraged berries and plants, the beggar woman finally revealed her true magical form. With a brilliant flash of dazzling light, her tattered robe transformed into magnificent robes fit for royalty. Her tangled mess of hair turned into a shining silvery crown, and her weathered, wrinkled face morphed into breathtaking beauty and grace despite her old age. You humble orphan child have shown far more charity and kindness than even the richest queens, the elegant witch said warmly to the stunned young Lily. You had every excuse to be selfish and look out only for yourself after suffering such hardships. But your pure, shining soul never failed to spare your last meager morsels for an ugly stranger on the street. For such giving compassion, you shall be greatly rewarded, my dear. With a wave of her hand, the witch conjured forth a simple, ancient-looking cast-iron cooking pot. It was plain and unadorned, but brimming to the very top with the most wondrous, powerful magic imaginable. Madame Thornheart gathered 5 of her most ruthless henchmen in the cellar of her mansion one stormy night. Lightning flashed through the narrow windows as she pressed heavy bags of gold into their calloused hands. "The girl must disappear," she hissed, her rings glinting in the candlelight. "Take her far into the dark woods, where the old mines lie abandoned. She'll never find her way back, and that magical pot will be mine." The men, Scar, Blade, Wolf, Stone, and Grim, were known throughout the underground for their cruel efficiency. They waited until a moonless night when the huntsman was away on a 3-day journey. His wife, who had always resented Lily's goodness, pretended not to hear the muffled screams when the men broke into the kitchen and grabbed the sleeping girl. "Good riddance," the huntsman's wife muttered, turning over in her bed. "Perhaps now my husband will stop praising that wretched child's cooking and kindness." They took Lily deep into the dark woods, beyond where any villager dared to venture. The abandoned mines gaped like black mouths in the earth, their rotting support beams groaning in the wind. Stone and Wolf bound Lily's hands while the others dug a deep pit. "Please," Lily begged, tears streaming down her face. "The pot must be used to help people. Without it—" "Silence!" Blade struck her across the face. But as they prepared to lower her into the pit, a flock of birds suddenly erupted from the trees. In the chaos, Lily felt something small and sharp peck at her bonds, a little brown sparrow working frantically to free her. The ropes fell away. Lily ran, her bare feet somehow finding purchase on the treacherous ground, guided by the sparrow's urgent chirping. Behind her, she heard the men's angry shouts turn to screams as the ground beneath them crumbled, sending them tumbling into their own trap. But Lily couldn't return to the village. Madame Thorn's heart influence reached too far. She fled deeper into the woods, cradling the precious pot, and vanished into the wilderness. The consequences of her disappearance were swift and terrible. Within days, the endless soup pots in poor families' homes ran dry. The magical blankets that had kept the elderly warm began to fray and disappear. But worse was yet to come. As weeks stretched into months, an unprecedented drought struck the kingdom. Wells ran dry, crops withered in the fields, and hunger stalked the streets. It was as if the land itself mourned Lily's absence. Children who had once been mysteriously well fed now cried from hunger. The sick who had been recovering thanks to mysterious medicines grew worse. The huntsman's wife initially celebrated Lily's disappearance, redecorating the girl's tiny room and boasting about how much more peaceful the house was. But her triumph turned bitter as food became scarce, and her husband grew distant, spending every free moment searching the woods for Lily. "She was like a daughter to me," the huntsman would say, his voice cracking with grief. "While you schemed and complained, she filled our home with love and kindness. Now look what's become of us all." Indeed, the once prosperous village fell into despair. Even Madame Thornhart's wealth couldn't protect her from the drought. Her fine gardens turned brown, her horses grew thin, and her servants began to desert her. The magical pot she had coveted so desperately remained out of reach, along with its keeper. For 2 long months, no one saw any sign of Lily. Some said she had been taken by forest spirits. Others claimed she had transformed into a bird and flown away. Only little Emma, the miller's daughter, kept faith, remembering how Lily had saved her mother. Every night, Emma left a candle burning in her window, hoping it would guide Lily home. And sometimes, when the moon was full, she thought she saw a small brown sparrow watching her, its eyes filled with a wisdom far beyond that of ordinary birds. But the worst was still to come, for in her desperate flight, Lily had dropped her most precious possession, and the magical pot had fallen into the last hands that should ever have held it. In a village far away, a kind old farmer found Lily sleeping in his barn. She was thin and tired, but her eyes still held their gentle kindness. The farmer took her to the king's castle to get help. The king, known for his wisdom, saw something special in Lily right away. "Tell me your story, child," the king said softly. So Lily told him everything about the witch, the magical pot, and how bad people had tried to hurt her. The king believed her story, especially because his own kingdom was doing well, while news came that the nearby lands were suffering from hunger and thirst. The king's son, Prince Thomas, started spending time with Lily in the castle gardens. He loved how she was always thinking of ways to help others, even after everything she'd been through. Lily found herself falling in love with the prince's kind heart and gentle smile. One morning, while Lily was picking flowers, she saw a familiar brown sparrow. It was the witch. The bird led her to a hidden cave where they found Madame Thornheart. The evil woman had the pot, but couldn't make it work. No matter what she did, it stayed empty and cold. "The pot only works for those with kind hearts," the witch said, appearing in her true form. With a wave of her hand, she froze Madame Thornheart in place. Lily took the pot back, and right away it filled with warmth and magic again. Prince Thomas asked Lily to marry him, and she said yes. But before the wedding, she knew she had to help her old village. She went back with Prince Thomas, the witch, and many soldiers to protect her. They found the village in a very bad state. People were hungry, sick, and thirsty. The huntsman was overjoyed to see Lily alive. He had never stopped looking for her. Even the mean villagers who had ignored her before came to beg for help. Lily used the pot's magic to bring back water to the wells, food to the hungry, and medicine to the sick. She helped not just her old village, but the next village too. Everyone finally saw that kindness was more powerful than meanness. The huntsman's wife came to Lily crying. "I was cruel to you," she said, falling to her knees. "I was jealous because everyone loved you. Please forgive me." Lily helped her up and hugged her. "I forgive you," she said. "Now you know that being kind is better than being mean." The wedding of Lily and Prince Thomas was the happiest day ever. The witch blessed them, and the magical pot became a royal treasure, used only to help those in need. The huntsman came to live in the castle too, where he became like a father to Lily. From that day on, no one in either kingdom ever went hungry or thirsty again. Lily and Thomas ruled with kindness and wisdom, teaching everyone that the greatest magic of all is having a good heart. Even the little brown sparrow stayed around, nesting in the castle garden, watching over Lily and her family with the twinkling eyes. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, Lily would see the old witch walking in the garden, smiling proudly at how her magical pot had found.